Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast, a special industry insider edition. Yeah, in addition to all of your regular episodes, these are a bonus, hopefully every 2 weeks, where we get down into the weeds with some of the folks who we really ought to get to know a little bit better and their companies. This week, from CableGangz, we've got Brennan Landry, the founder and the guy who's coming up with some great new ideas about how to tie out your dog, road your dog, and then probably hunt your dog. We'll talk all things bird dogs, bird hunting, and bird dog equipment coming up this week on the Upland Nation podcast Insider Edition. It's made possible by our friends at Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, TruLock Choke Tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, and Pointer Shotguns. Well, as they say down there, let the good times roll. I won't dare try the French pronunciation of that, but I bet Brennan Landry knows it pretty well. Brennan is the founder of CableGangz Supply. You can reach them at CableGangz.com. Yeah, there's a Z on the end, and we're going to get into that as well in this insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. I was intrigued when I stopped by the Pheasant Fest booth last year and saw what was obviously a better way to tie out your dog. Brennan, why don't you tell us a little bit of the background behind the company, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So, Scott, my company is CableGangz. We mostly specialize in doing tie-out systems for sporting dogs, multi-dog tie-out, single dog. We started about 5 or 6 years ago, and just been having our foot on the gas ever since. Staying busy, growing every year. So it's been a good thing. So,
well, I can understand why. And I got to tell you, when I saw your stuff, I remembered all the other tie-out stakes and systems, chain gang systems, if you will, that I've used over the years. And it was clear to me somebody had put a lot more thought into these, not only in the design, but in the manufacture and the materials. Tell me what puts you guys apart from, the stuff we can buy at the big box stores or from some of those other online providers.
Sure. So it's the rigging techniques. Everything we have is handmade. We do everything like cable and aluminum fittings and things like that are engineered to work. We strip ends to where you have metal to metal contact on swages. We use quality components. Our button stops probably are 15 cents more a piece than regular ones that you may see on a similar type cable system, because they're soft enough aluminum to where if you do start getting some slippage or something like that, you can tap it back into place and get it to grab again without having to worry about them cracking. We use the biggest, strongest brass snaps that you'll find anywhere on our systems. That's something we don't want to have to deal with or hear from customers, is that they're breaking snaps. It's kind of the weakest link in any chain system is the snap. So we use the biggest and most powerful ones we can find. And there's only a handful of us that are making them here. So everyone that comes across the bench has someone's hands on it that, knows what they're doing, what they're looking for, and is a skilled person at building these systems. So,
I'm such a cheapskate that I will always find a use for the junk. It all ends up in that bone pile over there.
Yeah.
And I go, I have to walk past it often enough to I look at how many tie-out stakes there are out there that all have fatal flaws. Mm-hmm. You've solved some of those problems for me and for a lot of other people. Describe the difference between your tie-out stake and most other tie-out stakes. And I'm going to start with the first one. There's not a link of chain anywhere in your product line, is there?
No, there's no chain. The problem with chain on a stakeout is it likes to wrap and bind. So it can hinder the swivel mechanism because it can wrap enough times around the stake to where it causes friction, where it doesn't want to turn. The cable it's not rigid, but it's a little rigid to where it sits out enough to where it allows that swivel mechanism to perform properly. And a lot of stakeouts, what you end up with is mushrooming on the top. They get sharp, which can cut a dog, or what you end up seeing is if they do have cap welds on them, they get beat down so much to where it starts to pinch that swivel mechanism. So what we wanted to do is try to eliminate as much of that as possible, or at least prolong it for years and years and years. So using cable and the fact that it doesn't want to bind, we can get away with a larger gap on our swivel.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we put a 1/4-inch gap in there so you can beat it down and it can start to pinch, but it takes a long time to get down to where it's going to hinder that swivel mechanism. So we just wanted to make stuff that lasted longer. I mean, we build stuff we like to say, industrial strength for recreational use is our tagline I use occasionally, but we really do. We set out to make things that are going to last real dog people a real amount of time. I mean, we don't want stuff like that failing. Our dogs are family, just like everyone else's. We don't want one getting out and getting into trouble or getting in the road or anything like that, So we build the stuff like we're going to put our own dogs on it.
I got to tell you a funny story. I was chucker hunting with a good buddy of mine from way back in music school days. So we've been friends a long time. And he's got a new young dog. And he lives in a place where he's a night owl. And he spends a lot of nights watching a campfire in the backyard. And his dog has become accustomed to doing the same thing with him.
Right.
So we go to this campsite on our chucker hunt. We build a fire, and he pulls out of the back of his truck your tie-out steak. Slams it. As he's hammering, I'm telling him, I love that steak, and here's why, and you're showing us exactly why. He's reefing on this thing. It's volcanic rock, basically, that he's pushing it into.
Right.
Just so that his young dog, Prez, can hang out with us at the campfire. It was touching, amusing, and a testimonial of CableGangz all rolled into one.
Yeah.
So what did I do? Same thing with my dog. We all had a campfire, and then there was a meteor shower.
Oh, nice.
Now, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is.
Perfect.
Hey, everybody, that's Brennan Landry with CableGangz Supply. You learn more at CableGangz with a G and with a Z.com. Why'd you come up with that?
I don't know. I put the Z at the end of it, instead of using S to make it plural, just to stand out, I guess.
Yeah.
There's no real reason behind it.
Well, it's clever, and it does put you apart, that's for sure. All of this leads to the obvious question, and I've said this to the president of Columbia Sportswear and a whole bunch of other folks in that rarefied air. Hey, man, why don't you use your products in the field for a while before you start making them in mass quantities? Because you'll probably change them after that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I think you've been there and done that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I travel with my dogs just like everybody else. I camp out with them. I'm constantly using the gangs, beating them in from piney woods down to the swamps around here, everywhere. So, yeah, we use them a lot. We send our roding gear off to pros that are on the prairie all summer, training pointing dogs, and say, we use the help of a few pros a couple summers ago to help us optimize our roding rigs. I mean, we'd like to get our stuff tested rigorously before we put it out. Right now, I'm working on a roding bar that after maybe another roding season, probably after the spring season, I'll know what we need to do to make a few tweaks on it, and then we're going to be putting stuff like that out. But we put it through the ringer before we offer it out to market or to our customers, because, yeah, we don't want, like I said, we don't want anything breaking. We want our stuff to be to set itself apart from other things that are available. So,
I'm just a music major, but even I understand
what kind of music?
Well, when I was in the business, I'd play anything for money, and did. But I'm classically trained, and so is
Mm.
my buddy with the new Brittany I just talked about. But
Yeah.
we've all played everything. That wasn't a CableGangz product falling apart, by the way, everybody.
No,
Uh,
no, this is an active house. I mean, I got people swarming around like a beehive around here.
I love it,
That's
and
normal at our house, though.
I get it, and by the way, anyway, so my point is, um, I understand, I think some of the engineering and even the metallurgy that you're thinking about when you're designing these products. Give me a little bit of a tutorial on all of the materials and why you've chosen materials like that.
So the cable is all hot dip galvanized strand. We use galvanized because it's more affordable than stainless, obviously. And also the longevity's there on it. I mean, the galvanizing processes nowadays are good enough to where it's going to keep that stuff from rusting for years and years. Unless you put it in salt water, which you don't want to do. But I
You
don't know
don't want
many
your
people.
dog in salt water
You don't
either.
want your dog in salt water either. No, you don't want them drinking that. But yeah, and for the stakes, we use a cold roll because it's stronger than a hot rolled steel. We just wanted things that the shaft's not going to have a tendency to bend when you're beating it on the base to get it out of the ground. As far as brass and why is brass used over stainless for clips, brass does not get brittle when it's cold, so it's got some malleability to it, which is a plus over stainless. Stainless can fail catastrophically, and it's more expensive. I mean, we do put stainless on things by request, but it's not something that we were going to do with like our standard setups, just because brass has some superior qualities. It tells you when it's about to fail. There, telltale signs. You can see wear and things like that, where stainless doesn't give you that. If it's cold or if it gets a shock, it can just break. So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Thank you. I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Probably won't have to worry about it with your products.
not
That does.
generally. No.
I hope not. And just to put you in context, first off, you're down there in Louisiana,
Yeah.
but you're also a bird dog man of wide experience.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking today, you might still have some quail season, but I think you've been really eagerly anticipating another bird down in Louisiana that doesn't get the love down there that it gets up in the Northeast. How's your woodcock hunting going?
Well, it opens tomorrow, so
Okay,
far
perfect.
we've been
Yeah.
finding. I've been out every day running dogs. Some places are really holding a lot of birds. Some are a little slower right now. The swamps seem to be drier, and not have as many birds in them at the time. But that's the good thing about woodcock; it can change overnight.
Literally,
Yeah, a
yeah.
storm can come in, put 3 inches of water down, and 2 or 3 days later, those spots are just covered up.
Wow.
So you gotta stay mobile. But I burn a lot of gas this time of year. I spend a lot of time traveling. I mean, I'll drive 3 hours to run dogs half a day and drive 3 hours back. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of all over the place. But I pointed maybe 10 woodcock yesterday and we found 2 coveys. I ran dogs till 1 o'clock, came back. I'll probably go a different direction tomorrow, where I'm going to open the season up. But I hadn't decided yet.
It's nice to have choices.
Nice
Believe
to
me.
have choices. Yeah.
That's great. Hey, everybody, that's Brennan Landry with CableGangz.com. That's the easiest way to find him, learn more about his products and his company. We will do more of the same. We've got a quick break coming up. I'm Scott Linden. This is an insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. We'll be back to Brennan in just a moment. And this week's Industry Insider Upland Nation podcast is brought to you in part by HeartlandLodge.com. You know how I love that place for its upland bird hunting, but did you know if you're a waterfowler as well, they have some great spring snow goose upland combo hunt packages. So check them out at heartlandlodge.com. Love the new acreage they've added there. Got to personally inspect it behind a couple bird dogs this past fall and can tell you, if you're looking for that ultimate Orvis endorsed lodge experience, you can't go wrong. Take a visit to heartlandlodge.com. Check out all of the opportunities you have there, not just for hunting, but also for family activities of various sorts during the off season. Learn more and tell them I sent you at heartlandlodge.com. Welcome back to an Industry Insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. Love talking business. You know Brennan, Landry, now from the first half. Brennan, and a lot of people don't know that I used to be a business editor and reporter, so I get a real kick out of talking, getting deep into the business weeds with people like you. Tell us a little bit more about the company, distribution, marketing, all the things that are important to us consumers.
Okay. So our business is, I run it right out of my house. I got a small shop that we make everything in. My wife's the main shipper. We have another lady that helps her ship. My son helps me rig, so he's on the payroll too. So it's about 4 or 5 people working now, and I have one guy that welds for me who welds the steaks, and he's a couple hours away, but I probably go see him once a month or so and pick up a load. And as far as marketing, the barrier to entry and social media marketing is pretty low. So I do some of that. I have some ads in magazines, Gundog Mag. And then I partner with a few podcasts, such as yourself and Gundog Nation. So
I appreciate the business.
I appreciate you too.
It seems to be working for you. You said you've been growing ever since. What are the bigger challenges for a small company like yours in our very narrow niche?
Some challenges we have we get busy times a year where it's hard to get orders out in a week's time. That's probably the biggest challenge. We just put our nose to the grindstone and work and do our best. But, one of the things that we don't mind doing that time of year, if somebody messages and says, "Hey, I'm going out of town for a hunting trip. Can you get this out?" I'll always move them up and try to get them out early. If they ask, I'll try my best to expedite things, because that time frame from July, August, September, October is just, it's so busy for us that it's really hard to keep up sometimes with order volume. But we try to accommodate people because we're hunters. I know when I'm leaving on trips sometimes and I'm trying to gear up, I understand what it's like to need something tomorrow.
And it's funny because you mentioned a time of year when a lot of us don't think you should be that busy, but right. You're supplying a lot of folks who are pro trainers or serious amateurs, like you said, going to the prairies or somewhere else, and with a long string of dogs.
Exactly.
So their world is different than ours, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people, I was shocked at how many people take prairie trips in September, but it's a lot of people that head up, I guess, to the Dakotas or Montana. I assume it's centered a lot around sharptail season opening. A lot of people are heading out for that. And also, there's hunt tests all the time, and people have tie-outs when they go to those things. So, we stay pretty busy all year, but that late summer, early fall is just when people are gearing up for hunting season, it's really busy for us. So,
well, okay, everybody, plan ahead. Get your orders in now, because you don't want to be the guy who has to call and plead with Brennan to make a special case.
No, there's no pleading. We make it happen generally. It gets hectic, but we make do. We definitely, if somebody calls us and says they're going out of town, they need something early, we make it happen. But
you've used the term a few times up where I live. When we talk about rigging, we're talking about high lead logging and things like that. And the cables are like this big around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you, you talk like you know the language in ways that maybe are related to oil patch or something like
Mhm.
that. Is your background in that world, or how'd you learn how to do all this stuff?
No, my educational background's chemistry and my normal full-time job and senior analytical technologist at a chemical company back here. So I get to play around with applied analytical chemistry on a day-to-day basis in my regular work. For this stuff, no, I'm known to be a student of things. So, I mean, I read a lot of things about cable rigging and proper rigging techniques and different wire makeups and things like that, just to where I knew what I was looking for and what materials and setups I wanted to use for making our products. So, um, that stuff's a lot bigger. It's a lot of the same what we do, just on a smaller scale. I mean, our biggest cable that we use is a 1/4 inch. They're probably using 1 or 2 inch cable. I mean,
Oh, easily.
big
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, again, getting back to this idea that you've kind of learned by trial and error to a
Mhm.
degree. We've all used frustrating products in your world. You've improved them, basically revolutionized them with this idea of using cable instead of chain, among
Mhm.
other things. Uh, it didn't come overnight, did it? I mean, this sounds like a long process.
Yeah, I probably started making my own things out of cable in maybe 2015 or 16. So I played around with it a lot, and I made a lot of bad setups back in the day and just saw what failed, what worked, what didn't, and
Those
came up.
do those end up on the wall of shame so that
Yeah,
everybody
I
knows?
still have a lot of them for that
Yeah,
original stuff that I made.
yeah.
Some of it's still in use on like Woe Bench or something like that I have. But yeah, trial and error and really getting it optimized with length and things like that. Like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but occasionally people call and want like longer drops on the gang, and
Mhm,
sometimes
mhm.
that makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
thing to think about is you only want to give them so much room on a tie out, enough room. You don't want to give them too much because if you've got one that's really wound up and that dog has a tendency to build up a lot of speed before it hits the end of a rope, that cable doesn't give. I mean, you don't want you don't want them to build up too much momentum and hit the end of it. I mean, and have a foot wrapped or something like that. It's just so the lengths and spacing and all that is really optimized for a vast size of dogs. So um, there's things like that we've come up with over time that just make this stuff easy to use.
Well, speaking of easy to use, you've learned a lot of lessons. You get the phone calls, you get the
Mhm.
emails, you're out there in
Oh
the
yeah,
field talking with your customers. I bet there's a list of things that you would recommend besides the length of drop. For
yeah,
example,
yeah,
when you're driving that tie out stake into the ground, I want to know how to use my mallet correctly. It's as simple as
yeah.
that. When we're putting them in, you got a tip for us?
Yeah. First, take the drop off. You don't want the snap on it when you're driving it in. And where you're holding the stake, don't hold the swivel because it's going to bounce and it's going to bounce violently. And it can
Right
pinch your
here.
hand. Yep. Oh, yeah. We've all done it. Also, when you're beating stakes out, I use a 2-inch ID ring. And the reason we use that bigger ring is so when you're when your stake's driven in, it's holding a lot of tension on it. I wanted it to where it wouldn't slip over the swivel stakes when you're anchoring it on the ends with swivel stakes, but also wanted it far enough away to when you hit the base of that stake to wallow out a hole to pull it out, you weren't really close to the cable loop to where you can hit it and break some of those strands because that's going to cause sharp ends, and you don't want to do that. So when you're beating out a stake, you want to hit it as close to the where it enters the ground as possible sideways a few times, a couple bangs north and a couple bangs east or west, and and stay away from that cable loop if you can. Although you're hitting it at the base, and it'll dig out a hole enough to where you can get them out pretty easy.
You know,
Um,
listen, you just saved a lot of people a lot of, first off,
yeah.
crushed knuckles. Second
Oh
off,
yeah. Don't crush a knuckle.
frustration. How about on a longer rig? We got a 4 dog string or
Right.
6 dog string.
Hmm.
Um, separating the dogs the right distance from each other and also driving those stakes in at the ends. Anything in particular from a practical standpoint there?
Yeah, the main thing is you want to get your installation very tight. So you want an extremely tight main line. And the way to do that is you slightly angle your swivel stakes outward from the way you're gonna lay your main line, and you drive one end completely to where you have enough above the ground to where your swivel mechanism's still gonna operate the way it needs to, and it's not at so much of an angle that it can't operate or is gonna want to catch on the tip. You drive that one in, and you go to the other side, and you're gonna put your stake at. This is the ring. It's hard to explain. You want to put it in like this and use leverage to get your main line guitar string tight. So you go a little bit past as far as you can stretch that ring, and you beat a little bit in, and then you use leverage, and it'll force your ring to the end of that stake. And then you go ahead and drive it in. It's going to be super tight on the ground, and that's where you want it. The tighter you get the installation, the harder it is for them to work the stakes out. The less strain you're going to have on your main line, because it's going to be putting less bend on those attachment points. That's where cable shines, when it's pulled tight and tight and straight. You don't want to choke it around trees and things like that. It's just going to cause premature wear. So
love it.
A lot of times, if people are in like rocky areas, I suggest that using ratchet straps around a tree to get it tight, but you don't want to choke the cable back onto itself. I know that's a way some people do it, but it's going to decrease the lifespan of it.
I think of even the winch companies. You got a winch on the front of your truck. They
always a hook.
Cringe. Yeah, they don't want you to do that either.
Yeah.
Although when you're pulling 6 trees off your travel trailer and there's an emergency fire coming too, you can do that. Go ahead, everybody.
Yeah.
You just touched on some of the most valuable information I've had in this area for a while. The one that I really wonder about is, how deep does that stake need to go in? We got a single dog on a tie out. We not want to drive that stake in
deep as you can.
As deep as you can.
As deep as you can.
Even all the way almost to the ground level, if you will.
Yeah, if you can get it, if the ground's soft enough to get it that deep, that's how deep it needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and the risk otherwise is they're just going to wiggle it loose, and then
you're going to be loose. Yeah. And believe if you have sand or your substrate, we started putting out a 30-inch stake. So.
Oh wow.
So we do also have 30-inch, which you can use on the ends too. It's really good for the ends of the longer systems where you're going to have more dogs pulling and putting strain on it. Those 30-inch stakes will hold. I don't know what they wouldn't hold. I mean, 30 inches is deep.
We chased a horse who had not been tethered correctly for a while. No. It was a mess.
I bet.
But this is a way to solve a problem like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not tying out a lot of horses, everybody, but it does happen. One more thing. I know these are nerdy, definitely geeky kind of questions, but what's your weapon of choice for driving your tie-out stakes into the ground?
I'll use a 4-inch mallet. I'm sorry, a 4-pound mallet.
4-pound mallet, yeah.
4-pound. I like a 4-pound. A hammer's not enough. Even a 22-ounce framing hammer isn't enough. You need a mallet for it. And that's also like that dry feed system we sell. People use in goose hunting situations. You got to have a mallet for that. I mean, you can't. It's not an ultralight system. It's meant to hold an 80 or 90-pound lab that's trying to break and go get geese while 10 guns are going off around it. It's not an ultralight. Put it in your back pocket and take it out in the field. It's heavy duty stuff. So.
Let's go from there to some of the other things you're doing. You mentioned a training table. We mentioned roading just to a degree, and the whole genesis of this conversation was to talk about roading. But first, give us a quick assortment of the other things that you guys are making at CableGangz.
Okay, we have some. Our goal is to make really quality things that are unique to the market of dogs that a lot of people don't sell. One thing we have is a force fetch table set up where it's like a plug and play setup. If you have 4x4 uprights, you send us 5 measurements and we send you a plug and play system with pulleys and everything on it's load rated. It's super, super heavy duty. It's basically the last one you'd have to buy. And it's a good setup. It's not a clothesline with a rope pulley on the top of it that's squeaking and driving you crazy all the time. We have the dry feed, which is a quick release system for retrievers for keeping them steady. The roading gear and the CableGangz are probably the most popular things we have. I had no idea roading was so popular, but a lot of people use the harnesses we have, which are riveted and sewn. They're meant to last forever. And the roading rigs are made out of 1/2-inch shock cord to where it gives your dog it takes a little bit of punch off their joints to where if you were roading them with chains or a rope or something like that, it's not enough stretch for most size dogs to where they're going to ricochet and bounce around and be able to get 3 feet out of position because of the amount of stretch that they have. It's just enough to where when you hit bumps, because most of us are roading on dirt, gravel roads, rutted up roads. When you're hitting those bumps, you're not jerking your dog to where their teeth are chattering and things like that. It's just to give them some relief.
And just for those who maybe aren't as familiar with the term, we're talking about attaching dogs via a harness to some sort of a rig that is attached to some sort of a vehicle.
Yeah, normally a UTV or an ATV.
I saw one of your rigs on a mountain bike.
Yeah, I've seen, and people do road on mountain bikes as well. That's true.
And so they're adaptable to a bunch of those things. But the idea of roading, like you said, I never realized either how many people are doing it who've never talked about it.
Yeah.
And you're a big believer. What do you get for your bird dogs out of roading? And then we'll talk about how it works.
You can't free run a dog for an hour and get the amount of endurance training and things like that you can roading them an hour. So somebody like me who's likes to hunt a lot. I mean, I hunt a lot of days a season, but my days are limited. My time's limited. I've got a business, a full-time job, 3 kids. You know the drill, Scott, right? So well, my time's limited during the week and I only have 30 minutes or an hour and a half to run dogs. I'm going to have them in a harness to get the most out of that conditioning program. So some people throw numbers around, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. I kind of like 3 or 4-to-1. But if your dog can go in a harness for 1 hour, that's at least 3 hours of ground time that they would have running strong, like you want them to run. At the beginning of the season, your dog's been sitting up all summer and you're going to take a trip for 1 week somewhere. Do you want to show up with out-of-shape dogs? I mean, and it's just a lot of times you may only have 1 hour in the morning where the temperatures are nice enough to where you can get a lot out of that 1 hour of conditioning when you have them in a harness.
And that is one of the keys right there is our limited time.
The limited time, yeah.
Define the difference between free running and roading. What are they under a load? Is that the essential difference?
Their muscles are under anaerobic load when they're roading. So
because they're pulling. They're literally pulling.
Exactly. Yeah. So what it does, I mean, in simple terms, it changes the dog's metabolism to metabolize fat and glycogen better. It trains their biochemistry to use it more efficiently to get more out, so they can get more out of it. And out of the food you're feeding them. You feed them that high-fat diet. A lot of people on 30-20 nowadays, you're training them to use it when they need it and not use it when they don't.
And that is an entirely different viewpoint about getting a dog into shape. Mm-hmm. I know I'm simplifying, but I can do that because I'm a music major.
That's
one is basically marathon running. The other is aerobic weightlifting, essentially.
Yes, that's right.
I'm going to write that down. But that is harder for some of us than others. If we got a side-by-side or even, you know what I mean, a 4x4.
Right.
We can set up your rig and we can put dogs on it. And the key, of course, is having a rig that can hold a dog as he's trying to pull against it.
Right.
But if we don't, I mentioned seeing a couple guys doing it with a mountain bike or an e-bike or something like that. I've got it rigged for my electric motorcycle too. But most of us may not have those opportunities unless we adapt something to it. So let's take a bike, for example.
Right.
The right hardware and the right pieces of gear from you, we can get a dog to do that. Do we put him alongside us over there, or is he ahead of us, or is he behind us?
It depends. Some dogs will rode from behind. Some don't like to rode from the front. I have one that won't rode in the front of an ATV. Some need to be on the side. It just depends. But it does take some training, and there are safety concerns with it. There are things you have to consider when you're resistance roding. I mean, I don't rode very fast. I'm mostly in the 7 to 9 mile an hour range.
Yeah.
Some people go faster. Some people go 12, 13, 14.
Wow.
And then there's more things you have to consider with safety with that. I mean, you have to be extremely focused on your dogs when you're roding. You have them attached to a machine. You're driving it forward. They slam on the brakes to use the bathroom. Anything can happen. I've had a rat run across the road and the dog lunge at the rat and almost end up under the tire before. So you really do have to pay attention to what's going on. You have to pay attention to your dog's breathing. You have to pay attention to, are they overworking themselves, overheating? It's not something you want to do when it's warm. I mean, with the humidity down here, I won't go road dogs in the 70s, It's got to be cooler than that. So where you are is going to determine some of the challenges as far as temperature and terrain. You don't want to take your dogs out in a roding harness and put them on blacktop the first day. They'll pull every pad they have. So there's things like that. I like to start on grass, and I work up to short passes on gravel roads, and then maybe work up to half of my hour on gravel roads. It's just, there's a lot of things you have to do to just make it safer on your dogs. I always bring a little water, but I don't give them too much water, just enough to cause the thermal exchange in the mouth and tongue when they're panting. You just want those mucous membranes wet enough to where they can effectively exchange heat like they're designed to do. You don't want to give them any more. You don't want to fill their stomach up with water when you're roding. I stop and give them about 5 to 8 licks every 10 to 15 minutes maybe when I'm roding, just to wet the mouth. And if it's close to that 70-something degree mark, I normally wet them down before I leave. So I'll spray them down with a hose pipe just to where you have more of that evaporative cooling.
Yeah.
Because that's always something to keep in mind whenever you are roding dogs.
Well, and again, we've all, if we've tried roding at all, we probably improvised the first rig.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't getting the dogs far enough away from the vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got the length away from the vehicle and the length of the cable, if you will.
Yeah.
Whatever you're attaching to the arm, to the rig, so that they can't make that hard left and get in front of one of your wheels.
Yeah.
That's why real roding rigs seem to make so much sense for anybody who's going to do it on a regular basis.
Right. And you'd be surprised how robust these things need to be. I mean, I've done U-bolts and all kind of things before, and they'll pull them all out of place. And I mean, when they're yanking on it, 3 dogs, and when I hook up 3 dogs, they can almost pull my ATV.
Yeah.
So you think about people with 6, 8 dogs. I mean, they can almost get a sleigh ride from them before even putting the thing in gear, I mean, they're yanking.
Yeah. That bone pile I was talking about has a couple of my faked out roding rigs that have a U shape to them in one spot or another. You did mention something that's really frustrating to me, and we have friends who will effectively use a sled dog harness and attach it to a bike and be pulled that way. I've tried that. I can't get a dog to pull against that weight.
It takes training. It takes training to even get them pulling properly in a roding harness on an ATV.
Teach me.
It's something you have to go slow with. You have to get them walking on the side of it first, and then you have, you go a little faster, and eventually the runner's high will kick in and they'll want to pull. They just get to where they go crazy to want to road. But it does take, some dogs are like shying away from the four-wheeler because it's a big machine and it's moving and it's just new to them. You have to start slow. You can start walking them in the harness.
Sure.
And when they're pulling on that, then you can try attaching them and going slower on the ATV until they're finding the front. Sometimes to get a dog to pull, you can, like if you have 2 bars on your ATV, one on the back, one on the front, and they're a competitive dog, you can put them on the back with one in front of them. It'll make them want to pull more.
Yeah.
It just depends on the dog, and there's different tricks. And I love talking to people about it. I mean, if they wanted to talk about or had questions, feel free to contact me. But there's different things you can do, but it does take some training. But once you get them used to it, and once they're good at roading, you can really, really get a lot of endurance work done in a short amount of time, and that's my favorite thing about it.
I love it.
Because I don't like dogs that are like, all right, hunt them out. I want them going. I want them. I see that horizon. I want to get to that horizon. That's how I want mine running. So, I mean, I like them. I like them roaded up in shape, ready to roll.
I like them in shape. And believe me, on day 3 of a 4-day hunt is when that becomes very, very important.
Absolutely.
Well, you're on the right track, my friend. Pardon the pun. That is Brennan Landry of CableGangz.com. CableGangz Supply. Gangz is how you're spelling gangs. Lots of information there. Glad you enlightened me in so many areas. Anybody who wants to learn more, start at the website, CableGangz.com. See what they've got to offer there. Any last parting remarks about roading dogs in particular, Brennan, before we sign off?
It's another one of those things. If you like training dogs, it's all part of that process. I mean, it's just another thing you can do with your dogs that if you like running dogs, like people like us, you'll love it. I love it. I love what I get from it. And I don't know. I get almost as excited now to go road dogs as I do to go hunting. It's like, it's just the work I love. It's a labor of love. You know how it is.
Oh, and like you said, you get a dog that loves to do it. It's fun to just watch. It truly is. And that's what we're all about. We love watching dogs. I don't care what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Brendan Landry, CableGangz.com. So fun to talk with you about stuff that's important to us and to our dogs. Thanks so much for being a part of this insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Good talking to you.
Yeah, and we are still going right here. I want to thank everybody, starting with Brennan, who have been a part of this Upland Nation podcast. Heck of a lot of support since we've also gone to video on this thing. So please tell a friend if you will, and then make a comment or a review or a rating wherever you get your podcast, whether you're listening or watching. And then, of course, all the folks who make this possible, our sponsors. Yeah, it takes time, it takes money, and they're the ones who provide it, starting with HeartlandLodge.com, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, Trulock Choke Tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport, dog food, Sage and Breaker gun care products, and Pointer shotguns. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but all of those people are like Brennan. They've made part of their living or all of their living working with, hunting with bird dogs. They're people just like us. You meet them at the Pheasant Fest or the SHOT Show. They can talk dogs because they love them as much as we do. That's why they support the Upland Nation podcast. And I appreciate it. And I thank you, listeners and viewers, for your support as well. Always talking at the social media. You know where to find me. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for watching or listening to the Upland Nation podcast.